Moving abroad might be one of the scariest things that you ever do, but it also might be the best. For me, it certainly was, and I can't believe that I've been here in Portugal for 6 years now, and I really wanted to mark this anniversary with another video talking about my personal experience moving to Portugal and the lessons that I have learned along the way. Hopefully this will inspire and encourage you if you are thinking of doing the same thing. For those of you who don't know me, my name is Liz and I teach practical Portuguese in plain English every week here on this channel, but now and again I do like to share a little bit more of my personal story as somebody who has moved from the UK to Portugal. You can check out my playlist on moving to Portugal, I will link it at the end. So let's get into my 6 highlights of 6 years living in Portugal and the lessons that I have learned along the way, hopefully to give you all of the inspiration and encouragement that you need to take the leap as well. Oh, and I have a surprise update for you at the end, so stay tuned if you want to see what that is. So the first highlight of moving to Portugal was actually arriving. I remember it so clearly. It was the 9th of April 2017, and I had spent so long, so many months, years planning this move that when I got here I just couldn't believe it. I came back in 2015, which is when I sort of experimented life in Portugal. I definitely recommend that you do that before you make a big move. So yeah, that whole 2 years I was essentially planning, scheming how I was going to make it happen. Now the lesson that I want you all to know is that when you make a huge move like this, even if you've been planning it for ages and you know that it's happening, when you arrive you're probably going to be exhausted. I just remember feeling so emotionally exhausted from the whole process that when I got here I was actually super tired. So I really did listen to my body and let myself rest. And I think something else that I did that was a really good choice was to not overwhelm myself with trying to do too many things at once. Actually just getting here and allowing myself some time to rest and settle before trying to do a bunch of stuff was really helpful. So what I did was that I set myself a small challenge to do every day, and this could be really as simple as finding where the nearest grocery store is. And that's all you need to expect from yourself in one day. The next day, it might be, I'm gonna go and find where the nearest gym is or anything like that. Give yourself a small, reasonable thing to do each day that you'll feel proud when you've done it, but don't try and do too many things at once because, yeah, I can remember how real that exhaustion was when I actually arrived. Give yourself some grace, give yourself some time. You've just done something absolutely huge, so let yourself settle in. Highlight number 2 of moving here was actually meeting people and making friends. Now, when I moved to Lisbon, I didn't know a single person in the city, which may be surprising because you're like, what? You're this Portuguese teacher that everybody knows, and people do stop me on the street now and recognize me. But no, when I first got here, I would be probably in the exact same position that you might be in, where you don't know a single person, okay? So I'd already thought about this because I had a great friendship group back in London. I was always busy and doing things. So I really came with a strategy. I was like, how am I actually gonna make friends? Because I am the kind of person that will get quite lonely if I don't hang out with people and do things. So basically what I did was I wrote a list of all the kind of activities and hobbies that I would like to try and take up while I am here. I remember swing dancing was on there. And then just really go for it in terms of researching events and things that are going on in the local area. Obviously, if you're moving to a city, that's going to be quite easy. Websites like meetup.com and Facebook groups exist for all sorts of different activities. If you pick something you enjoy, you're going to find people that you like and get on with because they like doing the same things. So that's exactly what I did. I had only been here for 5 days when I went to my first meetup, and I remember the dread when I got to that door. I was like, what am I doing? Am I really going to go into a bar where I don't know a single person and just start talking to people? But that's what I did, and I'm so glad I did, and I had a little strategy for that as well. I realised that I could just leave if I wasn't having fun. I think sometimes we put so much pressure on ourselves to be like, I'm going to go to this thing and it's going to be amazing and I'm going to meet loads of people. Like, maybe it won't be. You're probably going to have to try a lot of things before you find something that you actually like. So put way less pressure on yourself and say, listen, I'm going to turn up. That's already the win. I'm going to talk to 5 people, and if I'm still not having fun by the end of that, then I'm just going to go home and try again another day. So that was my strategy for my first meetup that I went to, and some of you may know the story already, that is actually where I met my future husband, who I am now married to. So it just goes to show you never know who you're going to meet, and I came so close to staying home that day and eating oven pizza on my sofa watching Line of Duty, but I'm so glad that I didn't, because my life is all the better for it. Another really good tip for making sure that you meet people is meeting your neighbours. This is something that I talk about all the time with my students inside my Portuguese Pro program. This is often one of their main motivators. They want to integrate with Portuguese people, and often the Portuguese people going to be most immediately around you are your neighbours. So please take the time to knock on their door and say hi. Even if your Portuguese isn't there yet, just by showing willing, it's going to make it such a much nicer atmosphere to live in. Maybe you could bake some cookies or write a note with the help of DeepL, not Google Translate. Remember, I don't recommend that for your translation needs. This is something I have helped countless students do, and it is such a nice thought. Maybe bring something with you from your home country that you can give to your neighbours. I did something very simple and practical, luckily, because I do speak Portuguese. I knocked on my downstairs neighbour's door and asked her where to do the recycling, because my house was full of IKEA boxes and I needed to know what to do with them. Luckily for me, she is the loveliest person in the world and immediately took me under her wing. She now calls me my Liz, and so we have the most adorable relationship, but I will never forget the fact that she came out with me in the rain with her battered umbrella to help me put my recycling boxes in the right place. So you never know, just take the leap, knock on the door, find out who your neighbours are, and it will be an amazing opportunity for you to make Portuguese friends and practice your Portuguese down the line. The next highlight of moving to Portugal for me was buying my little apartment, which is where I am now. So I did buy this all the way back in 2017, so the property market has changed a lot since then. I don't claim to know much about it, but in terms of the process I went through, here are some helpful tips. Number 1, I know it sounds woo-woo, but genuinely think about the place, your ideal place, have it in your mind and tell everybody that that's what you're looking for so that you can manifest it. So I remember one of the first things I did when I got here was to start buying things like crockery and bits of furniture, because I really believed and knew that I was going to have my own home in Portugal. I even bought this little home sweet home sign, knowing that one day I could put it up on my own wall. So because I've been talking so much about the fact that I was looking for a little apartment, so many people were sending me links, tagging me in posts of things that were available. Eventually somebody sent me something that looked absolutely perfect, but I'd been so busy with work that week I didn't check out the link until a week later when it said that it was sold. But guess what? I didn't give up, and here is another tip. I actually contacted the estate agent to say, listen, I know this place is already gone, but this is basically exactly what I am looking for. So if you have anything else similar come up, please let me know. And guess what? He said, oh, that's a mistake. It hasn't been sold. We're doing viewings on Wednesday. Would you like to book one? So I booked the first viewing, and then it was just meant to be. This place was mine. It wasn't that straightforward though. The difficulty that I had was in getting a mortgage, not because I didn't have the right paperwork or anything, I just picked the wrong bank. They sort of strung me along for months saying that they were still waiting for approval. So I had the offer accepted in October, and then I think it was January that the estate agent got back in touch and said, listen, if you can't get us your mortgage information in the next week, the house is going back on the market. So I was devastated. I spent the next week going around different banks. Crying in the bank, I think, did actually help. But again, it was meant to be, and in the end I did get approved for a mortgage within a week from one bank. I probably should tell you which one was which to be more helpful. I'll put that in the description. And eventually in February we did the exchange and the house was mine. It was a very strange situation, the whole exchange process, because you literally go and sit in the notary's office with the seller and everyone has their banking representatives. They literally gave the check, my bank gave me a check to give to the seller, who then gave the check to their bank. It was very, very funny because, you know, in England, you know, none of it's done that way. It's done with an automatic exchange via solicitors. But it was a different process, but I couldn't be happier in this little place. We've been in here 5 years now. We've really made it our own. It's such a cozy little home, and I'm super, super grateful. The next highlight, probably not a surprise, of moving to Portugal was starting this channel, Talk the Streets, which I started, well, officially back in March 2020 when that whole pandemic situation started, and I thought, well, if I'm going to be teaching Portuguese, I better start doing it on YouTube. So you might not know the story about how I got started with all of this. I used to work in PR when I lived in London, and then when I first came to Portugal, I was still doing PR kind of freelance. And I'd always loved it. It was something I was very good at, communication. I got to travel a lot all over the world, which was amazing. But when I actually moved to Lisbon and found that I was feeling really settled here, I had my apartment, I had my boyfriend, I had these friends, I realized that actually maybe one of the reasons why I was so into work and into traveling before when I was living in London was because I was kind of escaping my actual life, right? And then when I came to Lisbon and I had a life that I really liked, I found that I didn't want to be traveling as much. I didn't want to be working quite such crazy hours and giving so much of myself to a really high demanding job. In the end, it was kind of my body and health that gave up. I'd kind of done one too many long haul trips, one too many conferences, and I realized that it was time that I needed to stop and do something different. When I had to think about, well, what would I do? The most immediate thing that came to me was teaching Portuguese, because there were so many people who were moving here and not many people who could actually speak Portuguese in the way that I could. So this is often how a business idea starts. You have friends and family asking you, hey, can you help me with this thing? And if you know that you're good at helping with that thing, then why not make it into a business? So throughout 2019, I started teaching workshops in Lisbon, very small private groups, and I really, really loved it. And then it was the pandemic that was kind of the catalyst for me taking it all online. You may have heard that my dream job when I was a child was to be a Blue Peter presenter. So I felt like teaching Portuguese on YouTube would be a pretty good close second on that. So I decided to give it a go, and I am so lucky and grateful that it really took off in the way that it did during the pandemic when people were stuck at home. So if people were looking to learn something new, then the internet was where they were turning. Obviously, I was absolutely terrified of going public with this, and I remember so clearly when I went to my first entrepreneurship conference here in Lisbon, really trying to fake it till I made it. Somebody asked me, well, what do you do? And I said, oh, I teach Portuguese. And they were like, but you're not Portuguese. I said, no, but it was my degree at university, I'm very good at it. And he was like, good luck with that. And I was crushed. But it just goes to show this channel is now at over 70,000 subscribers. It's one of the biggest channels now for learning European Portuguese. I have over 600 students in my Portuguese Pro program and a team. There's 5 of us now. So really it has grown beyond my wildest expectations, and I'm so, so proud of what we have done. So don't let anybody tell you that what you have in mind to do, if you are passionate about it and good at it, don't let anyone tell you that you won't be able to. It took a lot of strength and courage to leave my normal 9 to 5 and go and set up my own thing. I have a lot to thank this book for, You Are a Badass. I remember reading it cover to cover, obsessed with it, and really thinking, oh, there's no reason why I shouldn't try doing this. I highly recommend this book to anybody who is thinking of taking a big leap in their life because they're just not happy with where they are. Another really good piece of advice is finding a mentor who is doing what you want to do. For a long time, this was really hard for me because I didn't know what I wanted to do. So how could I find a mentor who was actually doing it? But the more people I spoke to about what I was thinking of doing, the more I was put in touch with different people. And eventually I found my mentor, who is still my mentor to this day, Sunny Lenarduzzi, who is amazing and has taught me everything I know about YouTube and about running a business. I actually got to meet her earlier this year, which was a real vision board moment for me. So that's another really, really great piece of advice. If you are wanting to do something new, find somebody who has done it, who has walked that path before you, and take them on as your mentor. My next highlight of moving to Portugal, I think this is number 5 now, is getting my dog. Now, I don't really have any huge philosophical lessons here about getting a dog because, you know, there's plenty of books on that and it's not really relevant to this channel. But the big thing that I wanted to share here was that he has brought us so much joy. For a long time, I was really worried about getting a pet because it is a lot of responsibility. And then I realized that that was somebody else's voice in my head. And once I actually trusted myself and my gut to know that, no, this is something that I really want to do, I'm ready for it and I'm going to make it work, I've been rewarded like 100-fold by all the joy that he has brought us. So if you think you are ready, do the research, read the books, be very sure, but then just go for it. Portugal is a really dog-friendly place. You can take them to so many places. There is so much of an outdoor culture here with the beaches and the parks. It really is such a joy to have a dog in Portugal, so I highly recommend it to anyone. My final highlight of 6 years in Portugal is, of course, the fact that I got to marry my husband, Mike. It's coming up to our first wedding anniversary. I cannot believe it. We did get married here in Portugal and I did a whole video on that experience because there were a lot of lessons to be learned there. I won't go into them now, but if you're interested, go and check out that video. Honestly, this was just the most joyful and perfect day of my life because we met here, we've decided to build our lives here, and then on our wedding day we were able to bring all of our friends and family who we all love and care about so much and miss a lot of the time. That's usually the biggest, most difficult thing about moving abroad, is that you miss the people that you love. So for that one day and the few days around it, we actually got to have all of our favourite people in one place, our friends in Portugal and our friends and family from home as well. So it was just so special. As I say, I don't really have lessons apart from what's in that other video, but I do just have such immense gratitude for that incredible, incredible day in our life that I will never forget. And it's the kind of thing that you can look back on photos and say, no one can ever take that perfect day away from us. That's something that we will remember with joy and gratitude forever. So on to that surprise update then after my 6 highlights of living in Portugal. As you know, I applied for Portuguese citizenship and I did a whole video about it over here. You can go and check that out if you are curious about the process. And guess what? My application has already been approved. I was amazed that it didn't take as long as I thought it would. So I already have my Portuguese birth certificate. So now all I have to do is take this into a Loja de Cidadão to request my cartão cidadão and my passport. I cannot tell you how happy I am to be a European citizen again. I can't wait to travel with that new passport. So if you're curious about the process, go and check out that video next, as it will give you everything that you need. So that is all from me this week. If you are thinking of moving to Portugal, let me know your plans in the comments. I would love to hear it, and please consider subscribing to the channel because it's packed with hours and hours of content for people just like you. So I hope to see you again, and ciao for now.